Alright guys, let's do a recap of Pokemon investing this week. That's right, we're going to take a look back at this week and the videos that we did this week and the comments that were put in there, and we will do that right after this. Alright guys, so today we're just going to go ahead and take a look at a recap of this week in the Pokemon investing spectrum, or at least on my channel, on the videos that we did. Now, you guys put in some really good comments that have some discussionary merit to them, and I would like to go over those comments with you guys here and now, and that way we can actually go over these a little bit better. Some of them I would have to write a very long, almost a novel for, so I don't really want to go through and write that big of a comment response. So I figured it's a good opportunity to do that here today on Friday. We'll recap the last two videos of the week. We'll go over some of the comments and some of the discussionary points that came up that you have, and we will recap it here for you guys so that you guys can maybe see a direction or a reasoning on why I put the videos out there the way I do. So the first one we're going to go ahead and take a look at is the first video, which was released on Monday, which is, of course, Pokemon investing in 2023. The Great Elite Trainer box grab. That's right, we went over in that particular video how the procession of ETBs has been done in the Pokemon TCG here coming into 2023. That's right, the Sword and Shield era, specifically looking at each one of the sets, how they've performed, and overall what has happened during reprints and how they've recovered after a reprint. So if you want to, of course, the links will be below for these videos, or I will put them right over my head. That way you guys can get an opportunity just to click on that. I'd prefer you would wait until the end of the video because it doesn't help me out if you leave this video to go watch that one, but the link will be below where you can get a recap here that I thought was a really good point to look at was FJ. That's right, FJ, thank you for putting a comment, and I'll put it next to me here. I've been pushing for Shining Fates Elite Trainer boxes so much. It's been reprinted so much in every retail store, but it's held decently well at $50 a box and never really dipped below that. I really feel when it stops showing up on shelves one day, it'll be some incredible gains. Now, FJ, I would absolutely agree with that. I've actually been a big proponent for Shining Fates, even though it is Hidden Fate's little brother. Overall, when you can get those booster boxes, especially when they were sub $50, I was really putting them on this channel at that point in time because they are really good values. You look at what you can actually pull out of those particular boxes. That Shiny Vault is fantastic. You got the Baby Shiny collection inside of there, which is another great chase. Yes, some Baby Shinies are really low at about $1 a piece, but then we got like that Suicune and some of the other starters like the Sobble and all that actually are doing really well around that $10 range. So there are some really good values inside of that Shiny Vault, even with the current set that there is right now. And of course, you do have that Charizard inside of there too. So you got the Shining Charizard as part of the set as a bonus. Once again, he's sitting right there on the shelf. We do have him in-house, and yes, that is an actual great proponent to that particular set. It doesn't seem to matter how much it gets reprinted. It did drop down to about $42 to $45, right in that range, depending on where you looked. And that's to be expected considering the amount of product that we've seen on that. But as you said, it seems to always get absorbed back into the market. It becomes difficult to find. And overall, it's a great position to hold with Shining Fates. Do I think Shining Fates will be a great set 5-10 years down the road? Absolutely. I think it's going to be one of those sets that even box breakers and stuff will fall back on because of the fun pulls that are available in that. And of course, you get a Charizard Hunt on top of it. So it's a bonus on that particular set. So once again, definitely agree with you right there, FJ. Definitely thank you for the comment on that one. Moving up to the next one, I've got, let me see if I can read it. Meridian 810. So I focus way too much on ETBs, RCS boxes, Pikachu V boxes, blisters, etc. I spent $2,000 to $3,000 on products and only have 2 booster boxes out of all the product. From what I was seeing in a year or two ago, it seems like booster boxes were the slowest movers. Now, I think maybe I should shift my money and reposition into booster boxes before it's too late. One thing I will say to this particular comment, if you have already got all this money put into ETBs, moving back to the booster box market right now may not be the best maneuver, just because a lot of those ETBs have gone through reprints. The pricing isn't really there yet. You really haven't been able to recoup your money at this point in time, just because of the fact of the amount of reprints, especially on like that Pikachu VMAX box, if you're talking about the one from Shining Fates. And then, of course, you know, the RCS boxes were actually, to me, a fairly decent value, depending if you're talking about the one above my shoulder here with the figurine collection box or that GameStop Premier Ultimate Premium collection box. Just depends on which one you're talking about. Overall, I think that they're both really good purchases long term. I just don't think you've seen any gains in there. Now, if you were going to take new money and start putting it into some booster boxes, I think that there's some great value points that are available. I don't think that anything in that older section of Sword and Shield has any risk of getting reprints. I mean, you could look at Sword and Shield Base, you could go to Darkness of Blades, Vivid Voltage, all of those sets, even Shining Fates and Battle Styles now, I think are pretty well off of the table when it comes down to reprints. But do be careful, because at the pricing of booster boxes currently, in my opinion, they're getting a little bit on the right on value. Even Chilling Reign, to me, has finally hit the point where I think the value point is probably balanced out on that. And if it does continue to go up, I feel that it may be getting to that point where it's tipping the scale, possibly being a little bit overvalued due to the fact of the shortage in stock. You know, there's no supply right now. There's no booster boxes anywhere, and people are just looking for things to open. Chilling Reign is the #1 thing that people have talked about when it comes down to undervalued sets in the last year and a half. And I think that that's why Chilling Reign is the #1 performer, is people remember that a lot of us have been saying, you know, a year ago, even 6 months ago, that Chilling Reign was extremely undervalued, and that even at $90 was a great value for that particular set, and all of the Chase alternate arts that were kind of being missed in there because of the performance of Evolving Skies, and Celebrations being right after that, and finding out we were going to get the first alternate Charizard there in February following that. So overall, I think that you probably shouldn't be selling things to try and do that, especially particularly where you're at in this point in time. But I definitely think that if you wanted to start looking at some of those older sets, there's definitely some value. And even some of the newer ones, you could maybe take a gamble on it, because I do feel that the Sword and Shield block is very strong overall. There's some good performance between the alternate arts and the trainer galleries, especially even in the newer sets. And even if they did get a reprint, I don't think it's going to be a really large reprint, and I think it would recover rather quickly. So definitely maybe watch for some of those reprints if you're not in a huge hurry and you want to take a risk on potentially waiting. But if you don't want to wait and you still want to purchase into some of them booster boxes, you still have, you know, plenty of time in the near future for that to go up. So once again, I hope that that's a help for when you're actually looking at this. Once again, I won't tell you how much to buy or anything like that. But it's just hard to want to be selling out ETBs and things at this point if you've already tied up that kind of money into them and trying to shift it at this point. It'd be better off leaving them and letting those mature out and trying to buy booster boxes on the side now. Maybe switch that gear. It looks like the first set in Scarlet and Violet here might be falling to the same victim of less booster box reprint, or less booster box prints and more ETB prints. Moving on to the next one that we got here, we're gonna go EL. Thanks for the numbers. It will be interesting to see, it'll be interesting what happens in the next 2 months or so when Pokemon and the decision of reprints. I know that will change numbers either direction pretty wildly, and some of these sets are more recent, and I agree with that 100%. The reprint status is going to be a big factor when it comes down to especially the newer sets. You think the ones that were reprinted in last year, Brilliant Stars on. We just got acknowledgement that we are getting a Brilliant Stars reprint, so we do know that that's coming for sure. The size of it is yet to be seen. The amount of product, what products we're getting. I don't know if there's even been announcements on what products we're getting. I haven't even had a chance to talk to my LGS or Mason or my distributor, so I've been kind of out of the loop on that with training this week. But I do know that there's a reprint coming. I have heard that from several really good sources, so I do know it's happening. I just don't know what products are coming for sure, and that's definitely going to change the numbers and the directions of some of these ETBs as we move forward. And if Brilliant Stars has just been announced, I would be very shocked if we don't hear about an Astral Radiance, Lost Origin, and Silver Tempest, possibly even a Crown Zenith ETB reprint all coming here, probably after the release here of Scarlet and Violet. So yeah, it's going to really change things, how the dynamic works, and those volume of reprint is really going to change the positioning of this stuff, and also what products we get. If we don't get booster boxes again, booster boxes are going to continue to climb up in price, while ETBs may take the hint. Now, I don't think they're going to do a Brilliant Stars ETB reprint, because distributors even still have those. There's still plenty of that available. So I would assume it would probably be in that booster box reprint, which would be great for LGSs and that part of the market. Not so great for the investors. I kind of like the pricing continuing going up personally, but overall I do want to see a healthy market, and LGS is doing well, players doing well, and collectors being able to find product is definitely healthy for the Pokemon market overall. So those were really the comments I wanted to cover in that video. Like I said, this is kind of a video, a recap what was said in the investment side of things this week, and I feel this is a really good way to overall just kind of clean up some of these comments that would actually have a very long response. I mean, I got one in the next one here that is definitely going to have a rather long and lengthy explanation, and I'll probably go down to the other screen just to be able to look at it a little better. So first off, we're going to go and move on to the next one, which is going to be Pokemon investing in 2023. Invest in booster boxes now. So this is a recap once again of the booster box market and looking back at previous history of the booster boxes prior to the 2020 boom. We went back to Sword and Shield, or not Sword and Shield, we went back to XY era products, started looking at a site called camel.com. If you haven't used it, link will be below for that. Also, you can look at just about any product on Amazon and be able to see the history of that particular product all the way back from roughly 2011. Amazon really wasn't too big in products until right around that time period, and then Camel seemed to have come out about the end of 2011, 2012, and they've done a fantastic job of following the history of a lot of product items. So it gives you a really good basis for what's occurred inside of the market, even with booster boxes and Pokemon, all the way through Yu-Gi-Oh! I mean, all the different TCGs and collectibles, so there's definitely that good opportunity to be able to look back on that. So just want to sit here and talk about is go through some of these comments now on this one. And the first one that I'm going to be sitting here and looking at is going to be this one. Okay, as you can see next to me, I've got Chris G picking up at $80 to $100, even if it only hits 150 to 200 in a decade. It's pretty decent returns versus historical investment returns targeting 7 to 10% per year. And yeah, I would agree with that if you were to consider into there. And I think that someone responded to that, and I'm going to pull up the response. But the response that I have for that one that really looks at it is that the one thing you're forgetting is that if you put that $100, $80 to $100 inside of a bank or inside of an investment such as a mutual fund or an IRA or even a stock market exchange, you are missing two big components when it comes down to that kind of slow growth for a lot of the Pokemon products. Number one thing you're missing, of course, is compound interest. You're not getting compound interest on your dollar. If this thing slowly gains, you're not gaining a percent interest gain. You're not putting that compounding interest. And let's be honest, in a lot of investments with compound interesting, especially in bonds and things like that, you can actually do a lot better than 7 to 10% per year, depending on where you put it and how you operate yourself. Once again, the other response I have to that too is when it comes down to the overall gains, once again, it comes down to opportunity costs inside of a booster box. If you buy a booster box, we look at XY era. If you would have bought XY Evolutions when it came out and bought it for $79 or $80 at that point in time, and it didn't move for almost 5 years, 4.5 years, you sat on a product with no gains for 4.5 years. Now, what could your money have done in that 4.5 years? That's always that opportunity cost that you have to be looking at. And sometimes reading the market a little bit, you could maybe buy that booster box at $90 or $100 for XY Evolutions and still done extremely well when the market finally went back to it and started doing well. I mean, the boom start happened. XY Evolutions really was one of the last sets to be affected by that boom to draw it up. But overall, if you were to do that with a lot of different sets, especially even Sun and Moon sets right now, they're pretty flatline. Some of them went up during the boom. They kind of retracted after the boom. I mean, I did a video like last year and Sun and Moon products saying, is this the time to buy these booster boxes? And then they kind of came back up to that same kind of peak point that they had during the boom. And then now they've just kind of flatlined. We're really not seeing a lot of growth. Only a couple sets have really seen really decent growth over the last year anyways when it comes down to Sun and Moon products. So yeah, I mean, you could sit there and in a decade it goes up to $200. Yeah, you could see that 7 to 10% gain overall year over year, but you're not getting that compounding interest. You're not getting dividends from stocks and things like that that could be put back into that investment. And you can actually outperform most of the booster boxes, especially back in the XY era in 10 years in a stock market. So overall, there are some better options. Granted, if it's just passive and you just want to do nothing with it, and you're using it as a hobby and you make 10%, you're happy. Absolutely, Pokemon's a great avenue to put that into. I mean, overall, waiting it out and finding that point where it goes up has worked on every set so far in Pokemon. It's just a question of what catalyst will cause that to do it again. So once again, thank you, Chris G, for the comment. Once again, greatly appreciated. We're going to move up to the next one here. All right, next one I got here is going to be Volvo For Life. That's right, he's going to be putting in this comment right next to me, which is, I started investing in Pokemon when the Pokemon Go set lured me in. My advice would be to join a local group and find someone with a wholesale connection. They should give you prices under retail. I've been paying $110 per booster per box, but now $125 are the MSRP increase. Sealed cases of booster boxes are also a great pickup, as they already boxed and ready to store and have more value generally. One thing I will say is that I absolutely agree with you. It's something that I've done. It takes some time sometimes to get those connections. Definitely be patient and understand that you got to have a trust factor to them. And a lot of times just talking to like LGS owners online, there's some really good connections for people and some Discord sites. You can actually find some really good connections out there that will help you with that distributor pricing, or maybe they'll make like $4 or $5 a booster box, sometimes $10 a booster box. Right now, Scarlet and Violet are getting from 96, and you can buy them for 110. The general market right now is 125, and MSRP is about 165. So once again, there's definitely those great little ways to get in under the market value, underneath that sales volume or sales floor that we're seeing on like eBay and things like that with the release of the Scarlet and Violet base set. But yeah, I definitely agree. If you can get in with someone with a distributor connection, you can usually and generally get a better price scale at the end of the day, and definitely gives you an ability to work with those particular places. And like I said, make it a give and take. You can maybe sell them some, or give them some of your bulk. You can give them, like my LGS was short on energies when they first started doing Pokemon, and I had boxes of them, so I gave them energies in order to start up tournaments and be doing pre-release things. And I mean, there's things that you can do to try and help them out, and use this give and take relationship with the people that you build. Don't just take and expect to be able to be successful with them. They will do so much, but then they will go away from you if you start to take advantage of them. So definitely be willing to give to them. I mean, my perfect example is Scarlet and Violet release. My LGS did not get the quantities that they were hoping for. I mean, a lot of LGSs right now are afraid to purchase above and beyond what they want, because then they might have that liability like they did in 2021, where Pokemon International will print a ton of stuff, and the distributor went, well, you ordered it, it's been on back order, and here you go. Here's everything that you had on back order. And a lot of LGSs are very skeptical about doing that, because, they used to go, well, I want 500 cases. They put in 500 and they would get 200. So then they started putting in an order for 1,000 so that they would get closer to that 500. And that's a downward spiral at some point, potentially in the Pokemon TCG, especially when it comes down to that reprint factor. When they print and how much they print, distributors have an outlet to get rid of it, and now LGSs are a little bit scared to do that. So definitely with that, and the point of that story is that with the allocation drop that we saw with Scarlet and Violet, I was going to get 12 booster boxes from them. They only got 58. They wanted 100. It was actually 96. And I ended up giving them back to them, just taking 2 booster boxes for now. I'm happy with 2 booster boxes. I understand the situation. It helps them out because now they're selling them at that 125. They're making more profit than they would have by selling them to me. And overall, that helps the relationship between the two of us. And it's that give and take. You give and you take, and this relationship works between both of you. So just keep that in mind as you're working forward into those relationships. The other thing is that when it comes down to it, buying sealed cases is definitely great because they're nice, they're tight, they're in a really small space. You don't have to worry about damaging that film. I absolutely agree. That's why I like buying cases when I can. As many as I can, I buy them in cases, at case quantities, just because I get the case, it's sealed, you put it on the shelf, and then in the future, some people are really looking at cases, or you have the opportunity to just break the case open and sell individual booster boxes. that such as I've done with Evolving Skies and things. It gives you the avenues to do multiple things. If the case is higher, you can sell the case. Booster boxes are higher, you can sell the booster boxes. If the pulls are higher, maybe you can take your risks and see if you can get the pulls out of the cases. So there's a lot of options when you get that case quantity. Moving on to the next one. So the next one I got here is going to be KGB. Once again, thanks for leaving a comment on the video. This one he said is, if Moonbryon keeps going up, Evolving Skies will keep going up. And yes, you're absolutely right. That's exactly what we see with a lot of sets through history. If you look at, all the way back in Hidden Fates, you can go all the way back even further than that. Any set that has a really good chase card in it, the card really dictates the performance of the booster box. So if there's a chase per card and the value of that card, that single continues to move up. So for example, Evolving Skies, it's not just Moonbryon that's moving up, right? You've got that Moonbryon, you got the Rayquaza. You also have a lot of different evolution alternate arts all moving up. That Glaceon, that Leafeon. I mean, there's a whole list of them that are moving up over $100 now pretty consistently, which, yes, I understand a booster box is almost 400, is at 400, I think, for most places now. But it does not mean that those chase cards don't give you a little bit extra value inside of those boxes if you do pull them. At least you're not getting complete duds if you don't get the Moonbryon. It's not necessarily Moonbryon or bust. Granted, the Moonbryon's the only one that's going to pay for the box, but the other cards are there, so you do have a chance at potentially getting those and then getting them graded also, so you can kind of recoup some of that money at the end of the day when you're looking at those particular boxes. So absolutely agree. We've seen it with Hidden Fates. I mean, we've seen it with Vivid Voltage. You can go all the way into Evolving Skies, and who knows what's going to happen in one of the sets in the future. We may get another chase, and when we get another chase, just keep in mind, if you've got that mentality, that potentially we could see Evolving Skies fall out of favor. We've seen it with Hidden Fates. Hidden Fates performed extremely well, and it was doing, anytime a reprint came, anything that came out was chewed up by the market, but now we've seen that stagnated with the release of Evolving Skies and that Moonbryon chase. So since that's come out and since that's become the chase, Hidden Fates has kind of gone on the back burner. Granted, I love Hidden Fates. Hidden Fates is probably one of my favorite sets still to date, but it's definitely one of those sets that kind of has just cooled off. We've lost the hype and FOMO. We've lost all the excitement of that Charizard, and the whole set has just kind of settled down into a new level, and it's still moving. It's kind of flatlined. We're not seeing big growth. We're seeing it kind of bounce up and down and continue kind of the same average for the last year. But I also feel that set has a great potential to explode again in the future. Once again, looking at that box breaking, looking at the Charizard chase, looking at the Shiny Vault and the baby Shinies in that set, there are some great Gen 1s inside of there that people will want in the future, especially 4 or 5 years down the road. So overall, thank you, KGB, for adding on a comment. Moving on to the next one. So I've got MSK182. How can this be your opinion when Chilling Reign has gone up 50% in the last 3 months? You can't say it's FOMO when there's Sun and Moon booster boxes that are selling for $1,000 plus. There are chase cards and that will always be in high demand. MSK182. First of all, this wasn't really an opinionated video. This was just a fact-based video. Showing you the past history of how booster boxes performed. And I said in the video, I do think that booster boxes are still a great value, especially in the Sword and Shield block. I think all of these sets have some really good rapport to them. I think that they're very strong. I think overall they're going to be sought after. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to follow XY evolutions and even how a lot of the first sets of Sun and Moon did up until 2022. It's just a cautionary tale that not everything went up extremely fast. Sword and Shield era has been a crazy era with everything that's happened with COVID, with all the extra money, with Logan Paul. I mean, there was just a flash fire of situations that we're still kind of sorting out. And the other fact you got to remember is that it's been studied that by Magic that a normal person will stay in a TCG for 2 to 3 years. Well, guess what, guys? We're coming into about 2.5 years since that Logan Paul boom. I know it's hard to believe it's already almost been 3 years, but that means we might be seeing a departure of some of these people that are inside of this hobby. And we've seen it. We've seen people leave, but we've seen people come in. So as long as we keep getting new blood, the overall performance of these sets will continue to go up. The question is if they come in Scarlet and Violet, are they going to be going back to Sword and Shield, or are they going to be going up into Scarlet and Violet? That's going to be the new question, as of course we open up this new era of Pokemon TCG today. So if you haven't gotten any of your Scarlet Violet, definitely go check your stores because it should be out today as a reminder in this video. Overall, though, Chilling Reign is once again a matter of no stock in the market. That's probably the best way I can say it. We're seeing a lot of sets that really have been stagnant for a long period of time. We can't get Evolving Skies. It's going up $400 booster box. That prices out a lot of people when it comes down to it, or just a lot of people who don't want to risk opening up those booster boxes in order to do a chase. The other factor is too is that we don't have Brilliant Stars booster boxes. We're missing product in a lot of these different and especially newer sets. So people are continually tumbling down. And once again, Chilling Reign, as I said before, is probably the #1 most talked about set when it comes down to undervalued sets. So I think a lot of people had that in their head and started to move in the Chilling Reign also. So Chilling Reign had a push from, content creators such as myself. I know I've said it before about a year ago, and it's been said by a lot of content creators over time. And I think that that's the #1 boost on that particular set. Do I think it's a misplaced actual jump? No. I thought that was undervalued, and now, like I said, at this point, I think it's coming to value. I think it's at about the right point for its value point. If it continues to go up past this point now, if there's no reprints and no new stocking, I mean, we only got Brilliant Stars, but who knows if that's going to be enough to maintain the machine of people that are trying to open product. And if it's not, we might see Chilling Reign continue to move up in price, and at that point, to me, it seems like it's getting a little bit overvalued at that point in time then, because yes, it's a great set. Does it have a big powerhouse behind it? No. Yes, it's gone up 50% in the last 3 months. That's great. It's fantastic. But overall, it's just getting past MSRP at this point. And the fact that it's just a circumstance of what we've got in the market too. I mean, we've got a lot of things happening, and yes, that is still hype and FOMO in the Sword and Shield block. We have a lot of people chasing alternate arts. Once again, Chilling Reign, Battle Styles is going up in price, Fusion Strike, all of these sets that have been lackluster are moving up because of the hype and FOMO for alternate arts and for opening packs in the Sword and Shield block. So they're all parts of that. Now, if we look at Sun and Moon is one of those sets. It didn't do much until the Logan Paul boom. It went up, they hit new highs, and then they kind of settled, and now some of them are coming back to their highs of the Logan Paul boom. They're not moving very much. Most sets are not performing. Most of them are around that $350 to $500 mark. So we've got a lot of those booster boxes that got there during the Logan Paul boom and have kind of sat there. Now, I will admit there's one set in the Sun and Moon block that has passed $1,000, and that's Team Up. Team Up is, to me, a case study for what we might see with Evolving Skies if we do not get any reprints of Evolving Skies. Team Up was one of those sets that was extremely popular when it was released. Even when I came back into the hobby, you could not find Team Up. It was the only set that you could not find product on the shelves at LGS's. I could not find packs to open of Team Up. I could find cards, but packs were extremely difficult to find when Unbroken Bonds was released. Now, what happened with Team Up is that Team Up had its last reprint canceled. That caused a huge issue with Team Up, that it has a very limited supply. And I've even done a video on here about a year ago where I discussed about Team Up. Even at $800, I said that this is a great time to buy that because it was almost to $1,000. It backed down to almost $800, $826, somewhere right around that range if I remember right. And then it went right after that. I said that's the time to buy it. I would buy it now. I don't see it dropping below $800. It'd be really hard for me to see that box due to the limited supply of that particular set. There was no reprints. It was a very small set overall, but it was actually one of the sets that started this whole thing moving in that upward direction. That Team Up set, that Team Up style was what really, if you look back in history, was what the first real catalyst was in this market to move it forward. Then we hit Hidden Fates, which then accelerated it even faster. And then we ran right into the Logan Paul boom, which just threw this thing up into the mountains. So overall, I agree. Team Up is the one set that is an outlier. But to me, it's a very good opportunity to look at a study of how Evolving Skies may perform without a reprint in the near future, which is what we're seeing. I mean, what we're seeing with Evolving Skies is exactly what we saw with Team Up at the end of the day, and that's fascinating. I mean, it shows you how passionate some sets can be, and if you don't get enough supply on those sets and you don't get enough reprints for the people that are looking for that, they will continue to go ballistic on that thing and continue to push the set forward. So yes, every generation kind of has its outlier. Even XY era had an outlier when you looked at Roaring Skies. Roaring Skies was one of those booster boxes back in XY that accelerated extremely high. I think at one point they were almost up to $400 a booster box during the XY era. But then Pokemon did what Pokemon normally haven't seen them do it with Evolving Skies is reprint, massive reprint. They did a massive reprint of Roaring Skies and just crushed that set and put it down right back down into that $85 range with the amount of product, just like XY Evolutions. They just crushed that set. Anytime it saw some gains at its beginning, they just destroyed it, and it never ever recovered from it until 2020, which is kind of the point of that video that you're responding to. So once again, yes, chase cards, there are chase cards that always hold the high demand. Some booster boxes still with chase cards in them don't necessarily move as fast as the chase card itself. And the chase card has to have enough people that want that chase card in order for it to continue to go forward. Once again, Evolving Sky is a perfect example. It may continue to do extremely well all the way up until the point of where there's the next best thing. You got to remember in Pokemon, there's always the opportunity for the next best thing. So once again, MSK182, I hope that that's a better response, because I was going to type this out and this is what your comment is the exact reason you got this video. So let me know in the comments below if you do like this kind of response video, these comments, because to me, it's a little bit easier for me to tell you this way. That way you can see my decision making and why I'm doing what I'm doing, rather than trying to do short comments and discussions. So once again, thanks for the comment. And like I said, I wasn't really trying to be opinionated on it. Besides, I do think that Sword and Shield has good buys in booster boxes. I'm not arguing that. Overall, they've performed extremely well. They've done extremely well. My opinion on it was not really an opinion. It was more of a, this is what's happened in the past. Booster boxes used to sit for 7, 5, 3 years with no gains whatsoever. And if we do get to a point where more of these people start to leave the hobby, we start getting up to 3 years and we're starting to lose that 2020, 2021 base, and they start shrinking down, and alternate arts maybe start to become bored. I know it's hard to believe right now with the new type of alternate arts with the trios of the growth of Pokemon, but we could potentially get to a point where people get bored with alternate arts, and then you might see a shrinking of that base. And yeah, booster boxes could become a stagnant item. But the other thing is too, it's different now from XY era and Sun and Moon era, is reprints are not going to booster boxes anymore. They are going to ETBs. So that might completely change that ratio of how things move, because in the past we saw ETBs move up and accelerate extremely quickly, but booster boxes stayed flat because of the number of reprints. Now, Sword and Shield era, we've kind of flipped that over. Now we're seeing booster boxes move up extremely fast, but we're seeing ETBs move up at a much slower rate unless they're really fan favorite sets like Evolving Skies. So yes, I mean, I agree. We might be seeing a complete changing of the guard. Where it is in another year or two down the road when we get into Scarlet and Violet would be very interesting to see how this pans out. So overall, guys, I hope this is a good video. A little bit longer, I know, but hopefully this was a good discussionary factor with these comments. Thank you guys for the comments. If you got more comments, put them on. Let me know in the comments, is this something you'd like to see more of? Of course, I'm always willing to do this. I think this is a good way to respond to these comments rather than trying to type books and novels inside of the comments. And I know I've missed a lot of them from like DigiSmithy and Hill too. I know I've missed a few of them from him. He's done really well at putting in comments, and they're long, and I have long responses to them, and it's really difficult to do that. And I'd like to get you guys putting in these responses, and I feel this is a better way of doing it than actually going through and trying to type it all out. So overall, guys, let me know in the comments if you want to see this again. If not, just tell me no, stop doing this. That's fine. I understand. It's a trial. Other than that, guys, if you did make it this far into the video, guys, be sure you hit that subscribe. Once again, thank you for being here this long into the video. Also, be sure that you'll hit that like button, guys. It's fantastic to hit that like and keep us moving right along. And last but not least, be sure that the notifications are turned on. I know some people have noticed that that notification has been turned off. I found that out on some of my channels. So be sure that that's still turned on if you made it this far. Last but not least, I'll put up these two videos up over here for you, as I always do, for your entertainment and education afterwards. And we will see you next time here on Northwoods TCG.